How Great Thou Art by Carl Boberg and Stuart K. Hine. The hymn How Great Thou Art was written in the home of author and editor Carl Boberg, a member of the Swedish Parliament from 1912 to 1931. The song was known in several countries before it finally reached the shores of the United States. Born in the tiny township of Monsteras in southeast of Sweden in August 16, 1859, Boberg was the son of carpenter Nils Petter Jonsson Boberg and Hedvig Gustava Jonsdotter. The religious revival movements of the time strongly affected him as a young man. He was a restless man who tried many professions. He was a great orator, worked as a seaman, and for many years he was a preacher in the local nonconformist church. He was also the editor of the town's only newspaper, and in his spare time, he wrote poetry, of which some 200 were set to music. In his later years, he was elected a member of the Swedish Upper House, where his radical opinions on drinking, pacifism, and church matters made him a controversial figure. Boberg said of the writing of this hymn, it was in 1885, and in the time of year when everything seemed to be in its richest coloring, the birds were singing in trees and wherever they could find a perch. On a particular afternoon, some friends and I had been to Kronoback where we had participated in an afternoon service. As we were returning, a thunderstorm began to appear on the horizon. We hurried to shelter. There were loud claps of thunder, and the lightning flashed across the sky. Strong wind swept over the meadows and billowing fields of grain. However, the storm was soon over, and the clear sky appeared with a beautiful rainbow. After reaching my home, I opened my window toward the sea. The church bells were playing the tune of a hymn. That same evening I wrote a poem which I titled, O Store Good, How Great Thou Art. After being published in a local newspaper, an unknown Swede put O Store Good to the tune of a Swedish folk song, whose name has also been lost to history. In the late 1800s, several versions were published, but it wasn't until the early 1900s that O Store Good, which translates literally to O Mighty God, hopped the Swedish border. In 1907, Manfred von Glenn translated it into German, and 5 years later, a Russian pastor, Ivan Prokhanov, made a Russian adaptation. In the early 1920s, the Reverend and Mrs. Stuart K. Hine left their home in England and went to Poland as missionaries. It was there they learned the Russian version of Boberg's song, O Store Good. Hine then wrote original English lyrics and made his own arrangement of the Swedish melody. When J. Edwin Orr, a British-American theologian and evangelist, traveled to India in 1954, music was the farthest thing from his mind. He was there to preach. But while there, he heard an English version of How Great Thou Art sung by a Naga choir from the state of Assam in northeastern India. He was so impressed by the song that he brought it back to America. He had it performed at a conference for college students where he was speaking. As late as 1954, How Great Thou Art remained all but unknown in the US, but with Mana Music's backing, the song eventually landed in the hands of George Beverly Shea, famed soloist in Billy Graham's Traveling Crusade. Graham reportedly loved the song and quickly made it his Evangelical Crusade signature song. Given Graham's reach, Shea all but introduced the song to the nation. He sang it live on radio before stadiums filled with thousands of people, and during nationally televised events like the 1957 Madison Square Garden Crusade, which ran for 16 weeks and was viewed by an estimated 96 million people. Singers like Mahalia Jackson, Elvis Presley, staple singers, and Gladys Knight have also helped to make it one of the most widely spread and beloved hymns ever written. For his literary output, Boberg was awarded the Literasit Artibus Medal in 1916. For his political work, Carl Boberg was made a Knight of the Order of Weser in 1917 and the Order of the Polar Star in 1923. Carl Boberg died on January 7, 1940 in Kalmar, Kalmar län, Sweden.